Recorded live at the Scripps Howard School of Journalism and Communications at Hampton University, this is HamptonYOU Live. Greetings, Hampton University alumni, family, and friends. Welcome to the launch of our HamptonYOU Live conversation series. I'm Stephanie Walters, your host, and we are excited to begin our conversation series with a very special guest. As a Hampton alumna, I am honored to dialogue with a fellow alumna who is no stranger to our community or the world. Today, our special HamptonYOU Live guest is Academy Award winner Ruth E. Carter, class of 1982, Ogre Phi Ogre 4. This beautiful conversation with Ms. Carter will focus on her successful career, philanthropy, and new initiatives she has on the horizon with our university, the world, and in costume design.
That's some stupid shit right there. Ouch!
He's never gonna have any more trouble! We didn't land on Plymouth Rock.
Assalamu alaikum.
Mother!
I have them.
You must be Black Dynamite.
All in favor, raise your hand.
Where he at? Respect. If you can't do that, then go.
Now get on back to work.
Demonstrate, resist.
They're gonna kill my children.
That means march. That means disturb the peace.
Please! You better come quick.
No more.
I am loyal to the throne.
For the drive!
What's up?
We are vegetarians.
And that's the Tarut root.
Thanks for joining us. So I just want to start off by saying the last few months have been so crazy around our country. So what are some things that you have been doing to actually practice self-care during this time, and how are you doing?
Well, thank you. How are you?
I am well, and I know there's been a lot going on within our country over the last, 3 or 4 months. So what are some things that you have been doing to actually practice self-care during this time, and how are you doing?
Yes, these times are very unprecedented, but it gives us an opportunity to do a lot of things. Like I'm doing meditation. I'm doing a lot of unpacking. Not only physical unpacking, like movies that I've done back to back to back and never unpacked all those boxes out of my office. I'm also unpacking a lot of, things that we pile up inside of ourselves, things that we really need to unpack and examine our relationships, our self-care, our self-image. And I'm really working on that sort of inner self-care, as well as doing a workout 3 times a week in my backyard. I have a virtual trainer who I meet 3 times a week on my phone on FaceTime, and we do weights, and we do different kinds of stretching exercises, and all of that, helps, keep the peace, keep the balance between what we see on the news and what we're feeling, because a lot of that can get pent up inside of you.
Yes, thank you for that. And I know we all can kind of relate. And I want to just go ahead and jump right in. You've been so busy and you've had such an amazing career. So how did you get into costume design, and what does your plan actually look like?
Well, I got into costume design at Hampton. I, was first a special education major. I have an uncle, Rufus Easter, and an aunt, Evelyn Easter, who both attended Hampton. I had cousins there, and everybody was in education. My uncle was head of fiscal affairs and auxiliary services. And so I followed first in my family's lead, and I started pursuing education because, Hampton is known for a vibrant educational department. But my love was always in theater. So even as an education major, I was auditioning for plays and things that I had done prior to entering college. And I still had a really great desire to be in theater. And I decided at the end of my sophomore year that I was going to change my major to speech and drama. So I entered the speech and drama department, and I was in Raisin in the Sun. I was in all of the different plays, and it was awesome. And then I didn't make a play. I didn't make an audition on one occasion. And the instructor who was directing the play asked me if I wanted to do the costumes. And as a kid, I had, messed around with the sewing machine. I knew how to sew a little bit, so I said, why not? And then I went on the second floor to Armstrong Hall and walked inside this costume shop there that was fully equipped, and nobody was in it. No one was using it. So I just made that workshop my home. And from then on, I was the costume designer on Hampton's campus.
Awesome. Well, that plan seems like it's worked out very well for you. When did you really realize that your role in costume design was super important in the entertainment industry?
I've always felt like my art was what was most important in anything that I pursued. So even at Hampton, I loved costume design for theater, and I kept that passion. After graduating, I went on to do internships, and then I landed in California and was pursuing theater, and met Spike Lee. And so since I had that training, I just implemented it into the film industry, breaking down a script, analyzing character, coming up with a color palette. I loved it. It wasn't something that I connected directly to, oh, this is an important contribution to the entertainment industry, because there were other costume designers that I studied and I looked at their work in film, because film was something new to me. I've been doing all that theater at Hampton. I've been doing internships in theater and opera. So film was new to me. And so I looked at designers that were film designers. I looked at their work. Ann Roth was one of them. Aggie Rogers was another. I love the color purple. And so I wanted to know how they did it. And as I kept getting films, this was a time in the entertainment industry where Black film was reemerging from when it was Black exploitation Now we're into the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, and the young Black filmmakers are coming into the fray, and they're hiring me. So I get an opportunity after opportunity to hone in on this craft. So it was a long time. I think when I received a nomination for Malcolm X, I knew when we were making that film that we were making an important film. And I felt very strongly then that we had to be authentic to the story and the way that it looked. That was part of what I wanted to bring to the table. But it wasn't until I got nominated that I realized that other people were looking, that I was being honored by the industry for having a level of expertise.
Awesome. And that leads me right into my next question. So your career has spanned for over 30 years. You've done School Days, most recently Black Panther, Dolomite Is My Name. So were these films actually ones that you chose for the culture, or were they kind of just opportunities that were presented to you?
Well, I would say that my films are not Black films. My films are about Black people, and they are for everyone. And, I think when it has a Black subject and it has a predominantly Black cast, that has been deemed a Black film. So I get your question. But I've always thought about my films as just being films and just being stories. When I went back to Spike Lee and we did Jungle Fever or Mo Better Blues, there were also white people in that film. When we did Do the Right Thing, it was a protest film. So I don't choose them. They choose me. And after so much experience with some of the bigger films, I am someone that the industry has gone to when the subject matter and the size matched my experience.
Beautiful answer. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and have a question from an alum. So let's take a listen.
Did you find it difficult to break into the film industry as a Black woman? And if so, how did you overcome the challenges that you faced?
Well, I was very fortunate to have met Spike Lee, as I said, and he was very much a proponent of getting people of color behind the camera. And so there was never a question when Spike was in a meeting with an executives or a studio and he was getting his film financed, there was never a question about who was going to be his choice for costume design. I think out here in Hollywood, though, it was very different. Spike, as he is even today, blazes his own path, but there was a path that was already there in Hollywood, and that path was a little bit harder to break in. I was fortunate to work with Robert Townsend, Keenan Ivory Wayans, and they also requested me. Then after my nomination, I think that's when I started to do other films with other directors that weren't necessarily Black. I did Ty Cobb with Ron Shelton. They weren't all big popular films, but it just also helped me exercise my craft a little bit more. And so I think the nomination is what pushed everything forward.
And how have you been staying engaged in your industry while we've been social distancing? I know that can definitely be a challenge right now.
I had planned to take this time off. I just finished doing Coming to America 2 in November, and then I went to Saturday Night Live to help Eddie Murphy on his return to Saturday Night Live in December for Christmas. And so after having a real big, rigorous year doing a movie, and then at the end of it doing Saturday Night Live, I wanted to take a break. Then Dolomite Is My Name became a big thing in the award season. I got the Critics' Choice Award for the costume design in that. So then I was thrust into the award season and all that comes with that. So it wasn't until the end of February did I find that I could finally take a rest. And so I was like, yay, I'm not going to work for, 6 months if I can. I had this dream and this vision of unpacking. And then COVID hit. So I was like, right on time. That means nobody's going to call me either.
I understand that. And what perfect timing for you. And I was going to ask you, were you working on any projects that might have abruptly ended before this? But sounds like you had already planned your break before this.
I did. For me, it was good timing. And it also allowed me to sort of like really ingest what was going on. First with the quarantine and, how to manage that, how to manage myself. I did start with the trainer, but also with, Black Lives Matter and, our issues at hand. Once we started to, understand that, we needed to protest, like, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of the injustices that we have been facing for so long, it gave me the time to sort of really, take it all in and become a part of, the rally.
So let's get into your career. So you started off as an intern in Los Angeles. And for our students that are watching, how important are internships to your career?
Well, it gives you the professional environment. It's very hard to really know what it's like out there until you get out there, and people don't want to hire you without experience. So you're in this perfect spot to have just come off of a fresh, bank of education, and now you want to enter the workplace, but you don't have experience. So in any profession, internships are great because it does put you in the world of where you think you want to be. And it actually helps you make a really clear decision about it, because once you get in there, you start seeing so many other avenues that are similar to what you've studied. And I love being an intern. My mom was like, you've just done 4 years of college at Hampton and now you're working for free. And, sometimes those are the sacrifices that we have to make in order to make the connections and network with people and really see where we fit in.
Definitely. I can definitely relate. My parents said the same thing, so I totally understand that. So how instrumental was Hampton to you understanding Black culture, and how did your time at HU really shape you as a costume designer?
Well, I think the HBCU experience is invaluable. I think one thing for sure, it cuts out the racism. You don't have to deal with that as a student. You don't have to deal with negative self-image. You actually see not only fellow students, and you find friends that are just like you that you can connect with and have dialogue with, but you also find mentors. I had incredible mentors at Hampton that, told me things that I still hold dear. And I think that's what's most important. It's not necessarily all of the social aspects of it, the step shows and the marching of the bands and all that, because you actually get that too at other universities. I think it's being able to see people like you that are excelling, that are smart, that are not as smart, that are funny, and you find friends, you find like-minded people, and it's an experience that you'll never have again.
Yes.
It's this part of your life at Hampton or at any HBCU is an experience that you won't have again. And once you get out into the work world, you now have a network of people, of friends that have gone to different parts of the country or the world that you continue for the rest of your life to connect to.
Absolutely. And we have a wonderful audience here at Hampton University right now. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to one of our audience members who has a question for you.
Hi, Ms. Carter. It's an honor to speak with you today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
That's great. So there are a number of Hampton alum that's in the film and industry business. So how do you all maintain those connections, and do you all work on any projects together?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's Robbie Reed, who is a casting director. She's the head of casting for BET. And before she worked there, she and I worked with Spike Lee for many, many years. She actually introduced me to Spike. And there's Ray Dahl and Eric Payne. They're actors. There's so many people that our paths cross. You know, now the field has opened up. It's pretty broad. It's pretty wide, and we all have our own unique experiences as well. So we're not necessarily a tight network, but we're still tight friends.
Thank you. And before we move on to this topic, how important are HBCUs in 2020, and why should somebody attend an HBCU?
Well, as I said, it's an experience that you'll never have anywhere else. It helps, stave the experiences of racism, of self-image, and sometimes that can be challenging when you're at these other Ivy League universities that are not HBCUs, and you wonder, based on how you're being treated, if you're doing the right thing. You don't have that, and still there's an opportunity at HBCUs to open up that conversation about racism and about what the world, how the world looks at our community and our environment. And I think those are the building blocks to doing something great about change. Those are the building blocks, because we're not now only in our own neighborhood. We have a village at the HBCUs that foster each other, because we have similar experiences with life and with our families.
Right. And I love the fact that you've traveled the world, you've won so many awards, you're in the entertainment industry, but you've never forgotten about where you came from, and specifically here at Hampton University. So I want to transition into some of the initiatives that you're working on here at HU. So what's the motivation for you to initiate the new Ruth Carter Endowment Scholarship?
Well, as you know, I had a line with H&M, and part of me agreeing to do the line with H&M was that I had to turn their narrative around in order to shed the light on me. And that was to take, the mistake that they had made, and I know we all know what that was, and make it something that was very powerful and would give something back, would be almost like an apology. And we did the Trust Your Voice as my motto. We also did Ruth costume design, my logo, and we released it during Black History Month. And then I asked them to bring a endowed scholarship of $25,000 to start the endowment at Hampton University. So, I just felt like, they needed to do something, and then I needed to do something. Now that there are these streams that are coming my way, I look at all of them as an opportunity to give back. So with them all, and even the ones that are due to come in the future, they will all be contributing to this endowment. Because, I was a single parent child. I managed to, go to a family university. Hampton University is very much a family university for me and my cousins, my aunts and uncles. But I was challenged financially. I was challenged, and I had to get the loans like a lot of students. So, I'm hoping that this endowed scholarship will help someone at Hampton that was similar to me that could use a little financial help.
Yes, thank you for that. And speaking of that, for any alum who are watching and they want to give back, and especially as a time such as this with all the things that we're facing, what kind of advice can you give to them?
Well, I would say, follow your heart. It'll tell you your purpose. And your experience at Hampton is uniquely yours. And if you'd like to share that that joy, if you'd like to share that even turn around maybe the pain and do something for someone that's at Hampton, because school is not easy. You know, there's grades, there's GPAs, there's transitioning and back and forth between home and school, and things are transitioning at home. And so, just think about your own experience and how you made it, you made it through, and reach your hand out to help another student at Hampton. I'm sure that any one of them would appreciate that.
Absolutely, and it's so necessary right now. So I understand you and fellow alum Dr. Karen Ward, who is in the audience today, have initiated a fund that is targeted to help her be more effective in theater department efforts. How did that come about, and what do you see coming out of this relationship?
Well, Karen and I talked about the department when I was there. We were vibrant, we were active, but the theater department wasn't a specialty at Hampton. It wasn't, a big theater department, but it was vibrant, and people from the community did come in to see a lot of the plays. And so through our conversations, I discovered that there are more students that are coming to Hampton to study costume design. And I felt like I wanted to do something extra that would help the department give them a broader sense of theater arts and costume design. And so we are ongoing in our conversations about what that is, but we know that we needed to create a little scholarship that would allow that to happen.
Awesome. And Dr.
And
Ward,
we'd like to thank you, Ruthie, for all that you've done. We really do. We appreciate all your efforts. We love you. And we're so, so proud of you and everything that you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you've talked about doing guest lectures here at Hampton and having greater engagement with the students here. First, what gives you the drive to want to get involved at that level, and what do you hope to bring to the students?
Well, people were so amazed by Black Panther that I put together a PowerPoint that shows all the behind the scenes and the making of the costume design for Black Panther, and that's like a whole movie in itself. And I took that lecture around to, I've been to maybe 40 universities now, and I give the lecture, and it was so well received. I really enjoyed it. And I thought the students were smart, and they were engaging, and they wanted to know. They had this thirst for this profession. So I was honored to be someone who, in their eyes, was a minority who made it, who kind of picked myself up from my bootstraps and did the steps in order to become a professional, Oscar-winning costume designer.
And that is a beautiful accent piece you have right here. And tell us a little bit about the costume design industry from the educational and academic perspective. Like, what do HBCUs need to do to produce the next Ruth E. Carter?
Well, they have to continue to be active in the arts. And that's all aspects of it. I remember we recreated Thriller, the video, and I did the costumes for that, and it was like a performance that actually was so popular, it became something that the community wanted to embrace for some events that were outside and around Virginia. So there are so many aspects of this industry that there's no one singular thing. It's about staying active and being well balanced as an educational institution. The balance of, not just having one type of thing, having the knowledge of, I got all of my knowledge of Black theater from Hampton. I also learned about Shakespeare and Vanya as well. So, I have a rich legacy at Hampton, and I think that's what's there now currently, legacy building. And students need to come out and have a well-rounded education.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to make a pivot a little bit, and we're going to go to our lightning round. So this should be fun for you. All right, we have a video question from another alum.
Hi, Ms. Carter. You've been a part of so many amazing films, and my question is, can you tell us which film was your favorite, or can you tell us about a memory or an experience that was a highlight of your career?
Oh, I think there's so many favorites. There's too many to say today. Malcolm X was full of favorites. Going to Egypt with Spike and Denzel, and all the scenes that you see of Denzel in the Hajj and in Egypt. I was the set costumer. I was the everything. And that experience was incredible too. It's my first time going, out of the country on a film. And then Amistad was pretty amazing too. I got to work with the great Steven Spielberg, and I had experiences on that where I felt like the costumes were so dead on that we were in some kind of time warp, a transformation in time. That was kind of scary, because we were at, historic monuments and places that were creating history, and our costumes were also creating history with hundreds of people, but also the inhabitants of the Amistad. They took over the ship and they were mutinied for a long time. And I remember my mom coming to visit me on set, and we were shooting a scene where they walk across the square and they're wrapped in blankets and rags, and they have wrapped things around their feet. And my mother gasped, like it looked real to her. And I just remember her reaction and thinking that we got it right.
Wow. So with that, which film did you find the most challenging to bring to life?
Oh, it was definitely Black Panther. Black Panther, the costumes were so specialized. They had several layers in which they had to go through in order to be made. And we had a very tight schedule, on like, say, Captain America, he may have like 20 of those costumes that he wears in order to, have stunts to have some, and second unit, and then they have some left over at the end. They have a plethora, because that franchise is guaranteed to bring in a certain dollar amount. And on Black Panther, we weren't proven yet. So I had 6 of the Black Panther costumes. That was it. So, during some of the fight scenes where maybe the stunt guy was doing flips and he had wires poking out of his costume and they were ripping and tearing, it was difficult to manage six costumes.
Yeah. Wow. I think your answer there was no surprise, and those costumes were completely amazing. So congratulations on that one.
Thank you.
All right. I think we have another audience question.
You've worked with so many actors and notable celebrities. Who would you say is your most memorable?
I'd have to say, in terms of, shepherding to the camera, Denzel Washington. He is such a studied actor. As long as you're doing the work, when you encounter him in those private times where a costume designer is working with the actor with their clothes, walking into their private spaces. He was the one actor who was always preparing. He could see his focus, you could see his concentration. Angela Bassett, same thing. With Denzel, he had many, many changes as Malcolm X. And so I respected his process so much. And I think it's an experience that, I will never see again, because every experience is different.
Wow, thank you. And so for our alums who have been out for a while, maybe some of us more than others, our degrees are collecting dust. Is it ever too late to follow your dreams?
No, not at all. I think that's what makes you happy. And so it's never too late to follow happiness. And your dreams are what keeps you a smile on your face, that, one day this will be me. And one day is always there. It's always there for us. My mom went back to school at 50, and she went and got her master's degree, and she would take us to school, to high school in the car, and then the university was a community college, so she must have got she got her associate's degree. And so she would circle up the hill and go to class, just like us. And we had a big dining room table. We'd all sit around that table and do the homework. And she was doing her homework. And we didn't think anything like was unusual about it. We didn't think anything was strange about it. I think it's only in your head that you think maybe it's too late. It's never too late.
Absolutely. And what do you think has been your biggest learning lesson, both personally and professionally, during this time in quarantine at home?
That we must take time out for ourselves. That we, pursuing our passion and our dreams and our careers is not the be-all, end-all. That, I'm guilty of ignoring a lot of things that the COVID has allowed me to have this personal time to explore. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be connected to self. There's nothing selfish about it. You deserve it. You've worked for it. You focused on everybody and everything else. And now the stars are aligning towards you. And I think take advantage of it. It's really a beautiful thing to connect to your soul.
Yes, definitely. And that spoke to my soul right there. And with that, as we're wrapping up, Ms. Carter, can you provide our audience and our viewers with a wonderful word of encouragement as our last sentiments?
I would say that trust your voice is something that I learned. It really came in strong on Black Panther. I was facing a lot of people who wanted to show me how it should be done, who wanted to tell me the right way to go, that wanted to push me in a direction. And I knew in my core what that film was supposed to look like. And some of these influences were not right. And I had to stand firm. I had never done a superhero film before, and I think we're always faced with like new territory. But if we trust our voice, if we trust that little thing that's inside of us that says, I think we should stay the course and do it the way that we want to do it, or we imagine to do it, and embrace those people that want to hear your voice and want to understand and learn more about what that voice is saying or what that aesthetic is. I think that's what brought me the most joy when I stood back and looked at the beautiful costumes in Black Panther, that I trusted my voice. And that's my advice.
We would like to thank Ms. Ruth E. Carter for joining us today on our first HamptonYOU live conversation. It has been our sincere pleasure to chat with you and to share your story with the Hampton community and with so many who are just simply inspired by you and your amazing accomplishments. We would also like to thank our socially distanced live audience for joining us, and for all of our alumni and friends at home who submitted questions. It was my honor to make you a part of our conversation today. Please be sure to tune in for more exciting conversations with enlightening alumni as we move into our 2020-2021 school year. Continue to share your thoughts and ideas of people you would love to hear from by contacting us at alumni@HamptonYOU.edu. And don't forget to visit us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to learn more about HamptonYOU Live Series upcoming activities with Hampton University. It has been my pleasure to host this conversation. I'm Stephanie Walters, Hampton University, class of 2008. Until next time, it has been fun chatting with you.